Hey there everyone. This time around I wanted to do a different kind of video. I wanted to talk a bit about my own memories growing up, about the earliest memories that I had growing up when it comes to dolls and childhood toys. And I also wanted to invite you to sound off in the comments below and tell me about the earliest memories you have and what kind of toys and dolls that you grew up with, because I'm always curious to know what kinds of dolls and toys shaped us and what they made us feel. So yeah, that's why this video is going to be more of an improvised affair. I'm just going to be talking off the cuff about memories and dolls that I remember. So let's get into it. The earliest memory that I ever had of a doll is specifically one that I saw at my aunt's home. She had this Victorian styled decorative doll. It must have been 14 inches tall, and it wasn't a porcelain doll, it was a plastic doll that had this big white and blue My Fair Lady styled dress. And she had a big feather hat and also an umbrella with her and tight brunette curls, and her face was very much like these Asian and Chinese type of dolls like Lika-chan. She was very pretty. And now looking back and having done a bit of research, the type of doll reminded me also of the Jack-specific Victorian romance or Victorian elegance dolls. So yeah, that's the earliest memory of a doll that I have. I remember being awestruck by that doll, and I still have very vivid memories of the way she looked. And yeah, she was very pretty. But it's kind of impossible to be able to find that one doll again. Then, moving on from that, I remember being at my cousin's home and playing with her Barbies. And she had a fashion play Modespaß Barbie who had this purple dress and tight curls tied back at the side of her head. And she was really pretty. I also remember that she had a few other fashion play dolls. I think one with a pink dress. And she had lots of random fashions. I remember that she had the angel face Barbie dress. But the other Barbie that I remember that she had was a Beach Riviera Barbie with an iconic lime green and pink bathing suit. Yeah, I remember that one. I also remember a few of her Barbies having crimped hair, and I was very fascinated and perplexed. And that was the very first time that I saw crimped texture on hair in general. So yeah, that was a memory. Yeah, those were the earliest memories of Barbie that I ever had. But she also had a She-Ra doll that I was very fascinated by. She had a She-Ra Entrapta doll with this silver body armor and two long purple hot pink braids. And I was like, oh, this doll is everything. And she was more of an action figure. That also kind of sparked my interest and love for action figures. And as I was growing up, I moved away from dolls. I do remember that I went over to my neighbor's to play, and she had a gymnast Barbie, and that was the first time that I ever saw articulation on a doll. And I was also very fascinated by, because I was used to rubbery legs with arched feet. The gymnast Barbie had this plastic that had no texture, and she also had flat feet. That was also something that I was very fascinated by. And when it came to that gymnast Barbie, I was researching to see what she was called, and I found out that the American version was having a different kind of colored sport bodysuit to the European version. The American version had a blue and red colored one, and the European version that I remembered had a blue and pastel pink one, and I definitely prefer that outfit. Yeah, so even though I was moving away from fashion dolls and Barbies, I do remember playing with that one. But I also remember lots of action figures from that era. I was heavily into the Batman franchise because back then I was born in 87, so I must have been 6 or 7 years old when the first Batman and Batman Returns movie came out. And even though they were not meant for children, they were marketed towards children, so I was able to see them. And I loved the character Catwoman that was played by Michelle Pfeiffer in that movie. And later on, I remember getting the Kenner Batman and Robin action figures with Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy and also Batgirl. And I detached the cape from that Batgirl action figure, and I pretended that she was Catwoman because she was pretty much looking um, like Catwoman, having spiky ears and everything. Yeah, I was very much into action figures at that time. I also had lots of the real Ghostbusters action figures and some Mighty Max playsets, which was the boys' version of Polly Pocket. I also had a lot of Power Ranger stuff. I remember having this big Megazord where you could transform different types of vehicles that were shaped like animals into this one giant creature. But I also had lots of Action Man dolls, and a few of those Action Man figures were very generic. They had molded on hair and the basic 5 points of articulation, including bend and snap knees. But there was also this one Action Man that I had who had this gimmick where you could shoot a bow and arrow with him, and he had a real articulation, lots and lots of it. He had ankle articulation, he had wrist articulation, elbow, knee articulation, and I was very fascinated by that. I also remember him having a very defined, shredded look to him. And at that time, everyone just knew of that G.I. Joe and Hercules, big, beefy muscle guys. But that one Action Man had very defined, veiny arms. So that was also something that fascinated me. Well, there was always this passion or longing for going back to having Barbies again. I remember I was one of those children who was traumatized by the fact that they had to go to the counter and ask for the Barbie toy in the Happy Meal. I also remember sneaking out and buying a very cheap and basic clone Barbie from a newspaper stand with my pocket money. And she had this basic t-shirt dress, barely any hair on her head. She was more of a bubble cut Barbie clone than a long haired Barbie, ponytail Barbie clone. And she had this type of hollow plastic that if you would bend her arms or her legs, they would then become paper thin. And even though I know that my parents had no problems with me having dolls, I kind of was overwhelmed by society's ideas of what boys and what girls' toys were. So I was hiding that one clone doll under my bed and under my mattress, and only played with her when I knew that my parents and my brother weren't at home. So that's pretty much all of my experiences growing up as a child in the 90s when it comes to toys, because eventually I became a teenager and moving on to different forms of media that I was starting to obsess over, such as books and music, movies, and I became pretty much this pretentious type of teenager who was listening to garbage and reading Catcher in the Rye, and was pouty and miserable all the time and had no time for playing with dolls and toys anymore. So I've been rambling about all of this for way too long, on and on. I could spend hours talking about this subject. But for now, I'm going to close this video. Like I said, I would love for you to comment down below what types of toys you had, what types of dolls you had, what types of dolls you remember playing with. If you enjoy watching fashion doll related content, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I upload a video every week. Like if you enjoyed this video, and I might catch you in the next one. Bye.